Oh, my name is Jack Carter, not Little Liver Pills, just regular Carter. I was out here during the war years. I was working up north in San Francisco at the 365 Club. And I remember Tony Martin came in one night. He was in the Navy, and he was stationed nearby, and he fell in love with the girl singer on my bill. And he was so handsome in that naval uniform. The next day, they broke him to private and put him in the Army. From there, I went up north to Yakima, Washington, Seattle, and then I worked in Vancouver, and that's when I met Maury Amsterdam, who became my mentor. Came back here to California and stayed with him in North Hollywood on a Sago and Irvine. And I had a scooter, one of those Vespa scooters that they had, and I had a friend in Brooklyn named Sidney Leibowitz. He said his father's out here, and his father's now a yogi. Sidney Leibowitz became Yogi Rama Rao, and his big venture in life was swindling rich old ladies, which he did, and he had a fantastic farm, a ranch out in Van Nuys. So I then drove a dirt road all the way on to Van Nuys. That's all there was in the valley then, you know. There was only Ventura Boulevard, which was one lane. And I drove all the way out to this magnificent ranch with horses and orange trees and lemon trees and groves. I couldn't believe it, especially the juxtaposition of coming from Brooklyn and living in a heavy city and Manhattan, and then all this glamour, all this. I came out in the Army. I was stationed in Coachella, and Coachella is like it is today, nothing. There's nothing there. There was a post office and a sign, and the nearest thing was Kingman, Arizona. I was with a medical supply unit. Here I am in California working in San Francisco, and I'm drafted. I go back to New York, and I'm sent all the way out here. I went home on furlough, and on the train I met Jack Benny, Mary's sister, the whole group, and they fell in love with me. I had a mustache. I looked like a young Clark Gable. I had the ears out. I did the impressions. I had been in show business a little bit, so I was pretty hip, you know, and they liked that. Well, whatever. Mary flipped over me, and so I'd hitchhike in from Coachella. That was some hitchhike in every night to come into Beverly Hills, because there was no freeway, no highway. You had to go Pomona, Corona, Kelowna, Bologna. You had to go Riverside and get in, and then leave 6 in the morning to be back for a roll call. But when I came in here, I stayed on Roxbury at the Benny House. And next door was Lucy. Go know that years later, I'd be friendly with Lucy, having directed a couple of her shows, and I'm staying at her house. And I introduced her to her husband, Gary Morton, a broken-down comedian who found a new life and stayed with her for 30 years, you know, till they both passed away. Beverly Hills was enchanting then. I mean, it was quiet and white and still. And whenever I came out here to do a show, I'd stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and that was like a dream sequence. It was so pretty and so quiet and lovely, and people would come and pick you up, like Sheila and Gordon McRae, and I stayed with them. There was the Brown Derby, and there was the Luau, and not much else. Today, Cannon Drive has 27 Italian restaurants on one street, and it was just charming, you know, just to get in and see a lot of the big names. And by then, I had known several of them through Maury Amsterdam. See, Maury was a writer at Metro, and he would write the shows for Clark Gable, Ronald Reagan, this one, until the day he died. The president would call Maury at home. "Hello, Maury, it's Ronnie. Hi, I got a dinner party tonight. I'm entertaining and I need a few jokes." And he'd give him jokes for that, whatever group he was speaking at. Through Maury, I got to go to Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor. They lived on Coldwater Canyon. Maury also wrote for Ann Sheridan. She was a big star then, married to George Brent. And she had a chandelier when we came in her house. and it looked like something sexual. She said, those are George Brent's testes. She had them hung up there because she was funny lady. And I remember once Mary Benny gave me the car, said, go pick up the girls. Barbara Stanwyck, Jane Wyman, and Ann Southern. So here I am, a little kid in uniform with a mustache, with a captain's hat. You're just going in the Polo Lounge and seeing some gigantic people having lunch there, just to be in that aura and that environment. And then going to work at studios. I came out to do a movie with Fernando Lamas and Lana Turner, and I quit the second day. I was supposed to have a big part, and I wound up holding a horse saying, "Si, senor, si." And for this, I gave up $10,000 a week at the Chicago Theater. So that was one lovely experience. And then I made another movie which wasn't released. It escaped. Working out here was glamorous, you know, to go to MGM and the different studios, and then come home and stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel. You found that a lot of people lived in the Valley, in Encino, Sherman Oaks, Studio City, but the big homes were here. And Chaplin's home is still in existence. I had lunch with Charlie Chaplin in London because of Sidney, his son, who was my buddy, and I knew him in Palm Springs, so I was in London. I met everybody through the Mary Benny, you know, everybody big she'd have over for dinner and stuff. And Joan Bennett would come, and Douglas Fairbanks. That was wild to see these giant people. And I'm just a little kid, you know, like gawking, getting autographs. I even went to Lionel Barrymore's house. He had a home in Tarzana, and you had to go over a moat to get to it. Is that weird? And he was there, he's still alive, you know. The other day I walked into an elevator and Drew Barrymore was in it. And I went, Drew Barrymore! I forgot myself. And sometimes you'll see a character actor and you think you know them, you know, and you bring the name out. I like that lady that ran up to me. She says, you know who's here shopping? Dinah Shore. She has makeup on and everything. That was so weird. All the crazy characters that hung around. But Bob Hope was my connection to a lot of people, because Bob took a liking to me and would call me and take me on tours with him. Like when he was dedicating a high school in Keokuk, Iowa or something, he needed somebody along to MC while he just opened the show and then disappeared. And I had to do all the acts. I did it in Florida. I did it in Rhode Island. I did it several places. And I didn't even know he was getting paid. He was getting $40,000 and $50,000 for each appearance and stashing it. He became one of the world's wealthiest men. He owned half of California. He owned everything where Universal is today. All the way to the ocean almost. They forced him to sell it to give back a lot of it to the city. And he lived on Moore Park in the Valley, and that house was a 3-hole golf course. And we entertained there one night on his 95th birthday. But he was a good guy anyway, though, and I knew a lot of his writers. So that's how I got friendly with him. And then I did about 5 specials.
Do you think it's safe to talk in front of this foreigner?
Who you calling foreigner? I'm as American as egg, Fuyong. Cool it, fat boy.
Fat boy. I may stomach all over you.
And there was an NBC right on Hollywood Boulevard, or on Sunset, I think, yeah. And you'd hang out there. That was a hangout. And I loved to go to the studios for lunch. So I got friendly with Danny Hollywood, who was the doorman at MGM. So I always got at MGM, go to lunch, and there you'd see everybody. One of my biggest thrills was an AFI dinner for Jimmy Cagney. That's when they started it. And I had gotten friendly with Frank McHugh, the character actor, the guy who used to go, ha, 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 ha. And I saw him at a table. I said, I had just flown east with him. I said, gee, I'd love to meet Cagney. He says, Shaggy, go over and say hello. He's a hell of a guy. He's real friendly. Go to the table. Because Cagney didn't want a dais. He wanted to be with the people. So his table was in with the crowd. and he had his whole family. So I went over and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, Mr. Cagney. He turned around and he went, hello, Jackie. What do you hear? What do you say? Real Cagney like. I fell down. What do you hear? What do you say? Hello, Jackie. I'm always amazed when they know me. Like the other night we were at a dinner and the president was coming down the steps. And I said, as he was coming down the steps, and he was near my table, I just blurted out his name. I went, William Jefferson Clinton. I said, and he went, Jack Carter. Again, I fell apart. How the hell would he know me, you know? But they're pretty sharp. They know everything. It was always oranges that fascinated me here. Because on the train trip in, what you see for the last 10 miles coming in L.A. is orange groves, orange groves. The other day I did a movie for Stephen King, and I had to go up to Fillmore and Santa Paula and way up there. It's orange groves still all the way, orange and lemon groves. The other day I was on the phone with some business, and the girl was either in Des Moines or somewhere, and she said, "Oh my, yeah, we share, yeah, all right. I need some information, Mr. Carter." Oh, Jack Carter. Are you the Jack Carter? Oh, my God. Can I have your address? 1023 Chevy Chase Drive. You mean like Chevy Chase? Yeah. I said, hold on to your pants. Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills. Oh, my God. And then I went 90210. Oh, my God. That's my favorite show. I thought she'd have exploded. It was so funny. Everything meant something. To people around the world, this is a glamour. This is it. Beverly Hills, you know. You want to live here, you want to move here. But now it's we got to worry about subways going underneath and trains being built, and it's overdeveloped now. Rodeo Drive all the way up was a bridle path, and the street behind our house is named Bridle Lane. That was part of the run here. I love those pictures of old Beverly Hills, where there was just one house on Crescent, the hotel, and the rest spun off into, Roxanne said there were bean fields when they moved here. No, I'm not a big Nate Nell man. I'm not a big deli man. I did a special there at the booth for PBS some years ago, just on food. They wanted to know about food and restaurants and Jewish food and stuff, and I did a hilarious 2 hours in a booth there. And I've never been back since. I like Factors. We go there a lot. It's a little more gentle, better food, more space. I remember when I used to go to Nate Nell's, Lee Marvin almost lived there, like mostly stoned, you know. I know. The Wilshire's a lovely building. It's a monument. It's nice. The peninsula certainly added to the charm of the city, and the Montage, they did a beautiful job. If you can afford to go there for lunch or dinner at the Bouchon. But it's a beautiful setup with that garden in the middle. But the prettiest building, and the one that enchants me, is the City Hall. That is just gorgeous. And if you notice that same tower, that golden top with the mosaic, El Rodeo, the school all our kids went to. Yeah, we used to love to go to Rodeo and take Chase, our youngest, to school, and then after that we go to Forneo every morning for a great Italian breakfast. We did that for years, and you miss that, you know. You miss even going to Beverly High for the annual New York alumni. Yeah, that was fun. We always did a big show in the auditorium, which was better than the High Holidays. The couple that ran it were Fran and Lou Zygmunt, put it together. And they'd honor someone each year who was from Brooklyn, like Gene Barry, Lou Gossett. But before that, there was a fun in the yard, in the play, with food and typical bagels and lox and chocolate egg cream sodas, which were New York oriented. And everyone would have a ball and play games and things, and then you go into the theater, and there was always a great show, a big show with an orchestra. And the Zygmunts even brought acts in from Florida and from New York. You know, great singers, and the audience was a sellout every year, always a great show. And when they brought my principal out to give me my night, and she gave me a doorknob, one of those New York City public school doorknobs. But the principal of the school was a double for Sophia Loren. Figure-wise, face-wise, the woman was gorgeous, and I was all over her.
With heart and voice and golden tongue, loud be the name of you, trick song. Together all a song of cheer to Alma Mater greeted here.
If she'd been principal then, I'd still be in the Utrecht. We had a Dr. Rogelin you could brech from.
I think I embarrassed the hell out of her. My favorites were always funny people that looked funny and did funny, like Jimmy Durante. Jimmy Durante was classic. You know, but Jack Benny always used to say, if you're coming on stage with a red nose, you know, you better have an act to follow it, you know. And of course, George Barnes was very close with me. We saw George. He loved Roxanne, and he loved to tell stories. And we used to go out with him socially, because we'd go out and then he'd say, "Let's go home. We'll have a cup of soup." He loved soup. You know, when you get old and Jewish, you want soup. You want it hot and you want it often. And then he'd have a martini on top of it, and we'd go out and drink some more. So George was a good friend and a great character. And of course, Ed Wynn, you know, was certainly very, very wonderful. And he did my show when I was at NBC, and he was on the Colgate Comedy Hour. So we'd rotate, you know. I would do the Ed Wynn show, and he'd do mine. And the same thing with Donald O'Connor, who also emceed the Colgate. Well, I was thinking, now I remembered, of Sinatra, who came out of the peninsula the other day, and he said to the doorman who brought his car up, he said, "What's the biggest tip you ever got?" And he said, $100. Who gave it to you? You did, Mr. Sinatra. And Frank gave him 200. So that was a great story, yeah. Frank was very generous like that. $100 was like $1 to him. But he was very changeable in mood, you know. We were at the house one Christmas and we're singing at the piano, and Stephen Eady and Frankie Randall playing, and somebody else was at the piano singing. Who else? Stephen Eady and you and I, and Roxanne went over to talk to Frank, because suddenly he went sullen and quiet, and all he said was, "You can't smoke here. Don't want to be smoked here." He got very sullen, but up until that point he was fun. We talked about New York and his press agent of those days, and what fun it was. And there were good parties here on Foothill where Frank and Barbara lived, you know. And I did the golf show, his golf tournament in Palm Springs, which Roxanne refers to as God's waiting room. George Barnes would say he went to yeah, I do. He went to a doctor. He had arthritis. And the doctor said, "How long have you had it?" He said, "Ever since it first came out." So he treated him, and he sent George a bill for $10,000. And the check bounced, and the doctor called up, "Mr. Burns, your check bounced." "Your check came back." He said, "So did my goddamn arthritis." That was one of his big ones. His other one was going on a cruise. He loved to go on a cruise ship, entertain. And he took a girl named Kathy with him. He was going with a young girl. I said, "How do you do it? You're always with young girls." He said, "I keep a strobe light in the bedroom. Makes it look like I'm moving." So he went on the cruise, and when he was on the cruise, he came back. I said, "How was the cruise, George? Kathy, good time?" She said, "Terrific, terrific, terrific." Everything was in threes. "Did you have a good time?" "Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful." "What'd you do?" "Well, we got dressed, and we got into bed, and we laid there. And I said to Kathy, "Spread the legs." And she did. I said, "Not yours, mine." So what can I do? I planted a tree for Israel. And I got to water it every Wednesday. I do the voice a lot better when I'm not sure, like with and all that. but he was cute. Edward G. Robinson was a terrific character, and we got him to come to one of our birthday parties because he loved to talk Yiddish. The art collection was incredible. I mean, that was a fortune and all. It was like a museum. His wife really was the collector. You could kid him about that. Now look here, see, smart guy, yeah. Everybody imitated him, you know. They did he, and I did Cary Grant. And that was a big thrill. Cary Grant lived up the street here. And we could never get him to one of our parties, but we had some pretty big collection because my neighbor across the street is Sidney Poitier. He lives right over here. And he thinks I ruined the neighborhood. And Danny DeVito was up the hill right behind us, and Jennifer Aniston lived there with Brad Pitt. And that's sort of the back way into Holmby Hills. And one night I had every comedian in the business here, but nobody got up. I wouldn't let them. I was red hot that night. I did shows, musicals, and Roxanne and I sang songs together. We did the great song from the French show. I remember it well, you know. We met at 8, knew it was 9, and we did it together. And all of my kids all did a speech on my 80th birthday, which is many years ago. Getting Danny Thomas to come out and George Burns and Jack Benny to come to your house, that was a big thrill. Everything is speed and jet, and everything is imitation. Everything's generic. The world became generic. We got a substitute for that, a substitute for this. Hardly anything is real anymore, you know. Even real is unreal. So that's kind of disturbing, you know, because they used to be more genteel, less gentile, more genteel, and that's really gone. You know, everything is severe and tough and push and hard sell, and the movies today are disgusting mostly. It's all filth and dirt, and even comedy has gone that way. Today, the F word is natural in a comic routine. You see these comedians one after another, and they have no substance. But it's tough to build substance because there are no clubs to work out anymore. There's nowhere to build a career and a personality. You haven't got time. They're in a hurry. They do a 10-minute act and they want to be a star the next day. They get a sitcom and it's over, you know. Before, you had to go through vaudeville to nightclubs to stage, presentation, and there goes the phone. Okay. So that's about it, folks.